Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Also, happy last day of nutrient cycles. Woohoo, amazing. So happy for us. Last day. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about biomes just in time for your test this weekend. Pretty exciting. So we have this, I think, hysterical meme over here. What do you know about the phosphorus cycle? Phosphorus enters the atmosphere. All right, that's my impression of the rock. So phosphorus does not enter the atmosphere. This is the only nutrient cycle where the element does not actually enter the atmosphere. So crazy, so amazing. Also, yay, it's the last time we have to talk about nutrient cycles. All right, so let's briefly review the nitrogen cycle, which I think is of the most confusing of the nutrient cycles. Actually, it is the most confusing nutrient cycle. So the largest sink for nitrogen and the largest reservoir for nitrogen is the atmosphere. Unfortunately, the nitrogen in the atmosphere is inert. We can't use it. All right, plants can't use it. We can't use it. And nitrogen is a very necessary atom for all of us. We all need nitrogen. So in order to get it out of the atmosphere, we need bacteria. Remember, bacteria are super important. So they're going to take that N2 and they're going to do what's called nitrogen fixation. They're going to turn the N2 into NH3, NH4, which is ammonia or ammonium. So nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil are going to absorb nitrogen from the air and turn it into NH3 and NH4. Then more bacteria are going to turn that NH3 and NH4 into nitrates, NO3 or NO2, in a process called nitrification. It is not until this has happened that plants can use the nitrogen. So it has to be as nitrates, NO2 or NO3, in order for plants to use them. So once it's in the soil as NO2 or NO3, plants will take it up through their roots in a process called assimilation, and it'll go into plants. We, the consumers, will eat the plants, or if you're a secondary consumer and eat meat, you could also get it from the meat who ate the plants. Plants and animals, we all decompose, and once we go through decomposition, our nitrogen will be back in the soil. This is why composting is really good fertilizer. You take dead plants, food scraps, dead animals, food scraps, and you put them in the ground, and they actually act as fertilizer for other plants. All right. Okay, so over time, the nitrogen in the soil can go into fossil fuels. Again, we are extracting fossil fuels. That's going to release some nitrogen back into the atmosphere. So all of this also happens in the ocean. The very similar thing what we just said with the whole bacteria. So we have nitrogen fixing bacteria in the ocean who take it out of the atmosphere. They turn it into NH3, NH4. And then through nitrification, more bacteria are going to turn it into NO2 and NO3. Once it is in NO2 or NO3, the plants are going to take it in to consumers, down to decomposers. All right, it's the exact same thing over here on land, but just in the ocean. A lot of nitrogen is going to come from runoff from the rivers into the oceans. Any inorganic nitrogen, which means it's not attached to a hydrogen, is going to be buried and become sedimentary rock. Eventually, over time, this could become fossil fuels as well. All right, so like I said, this is like the hardest one. There's a lot of weird steps. So we're going to also quickly go over, you guys had some questions about these. We're going to go over the questions too. So what is nitrogen fixation? So nitrogen fixation is when we go from inert nitrogen, N2, and turn it into either NH4 or NH3. And this is done by bacteria, by nitrogen fixing bacteria. All right, what is nitrification? This is when we take ammonia or ammonium and we're going to turn it into nitrates. And we aren't going to do that because we're not bacteria. And this is done by nitrifying bacteria. Denitrification is going to be the opposite, and it's going to be where bacteria actually turn NO2, NO3 back into inert nitrogen. All of this is done by bacteria. So why are bacteria essential for the nitrogen cycle? So remember, this nitrogen is inert. We can't use it. Yes, 78% of what we inhale is nitrogen. But just we inhale it and we exhale it. We can't do anything with that nitrogen. And nitrogen is a very essential atom that we all need. So without bacteria to turn that inert nitrogen, that N2, into ammonium, and then have different bacteria turn it from ammonium into nitrates, we wouldn't be able to get nitrogen at all, which means basically no living thing would be around. Because all living things need nitrogen. And without bacteria, we wouldn't have it. It'd just be floating around in the atmosphere, unable to be used. All right, so without bacteria, there's literally no nitrogen cycle, no living things. Cool. You will need to know nitrogen fixation is N2 into ammonium or ammonia. Nitrification is ammonium into nitrates. Denitrification takes it back into N2. All right, so you will need to know that for the AP exam. All right, so back to the phosphorus cycle. So like I said, I said this earlier, phosphorus is the only nutrient that is not in the atmosphere. Phosphorus? Did I say phosphorus? Phosphorus is the only chemical that's not in the atmosphere. So we have to mine phosphorus from rocks. So scientists realized that phosphorus is also a great fertilizer. It helps plants grow. So we mine phosphorus from rocks. We put it into fertilizer, which will usually also contain some nitrogen. You put it on your crops, it rains. That rain is going to pick up a lot of fertilizer. It's going to enter runoff. The fertilizer is going to run off into nearby bodies of water. And then we get this thing called eutrophication that happens. So I wanted to zoom in on this. So the nitrogen and phosphorus come into the body of water. Remember, it helps plants grow. So phytoplankton are a type of like aquatic plant you can think of. They're photosynthesizers that live in water, and they will also use the nitrogen and phosphorus to grow. So there's going to be a ton of them, just so many phytoplankton. It's going to kind of look gross and green and algae-like. Once those phytoplankton die, they're going to sink down to the bottom. Decomposers also live in bodies of water, and the more dead stuff, the more decomposers, because now they have more food. So as the decomposer population grows, they're going to use up more and more oxygen in the water. Remember, fish need oxygen. All living things need oxygen to go through cellular respiration. Eventually, there's going to be so little oxygen in that water, it's actually going to suffocate all living things in the water. So eutrophication depletes oxygen and suffocates, which is crazy because they're underwater, suffocates fish, oysters, any living thing, even plants. And it's called a hypoxic zone, where if anything goes into the hypoxic zone within a couple minutes, it'll suffocate and die. Pretty crazy. So eutrophication, no good, and it's caused by phosphorus and nitrogen found in fertilizers. All right, so now is your interactive notebook time. So you're going to do same thing we've been doing for the past few days. You're going to read the read the passage about phosphorus, fill in the boxes. I am going to ask you to do the flux arrows this time since phosphorus is a little easier than nitrogen. Tomorrow we will go over the phosphorus cycle and we'll also start talking about terrestrial biomes. Heads up, you all should already know this, but we have a test this weekend. It's our first unit test. If you are behind, go back to the first video and watch it. All right, so I would recommend starting, if you are confused about things, starting to rewatch videos, starting to read your textbook. I will be making a review sheet for the first exam, and I should have it up either today or tomorrow. All right, if you have questions, office hours 2 to 2:20 every day. I will see you guys later. Bye.